busted in. We broke down the door, we came to win. TLA Season 4, it's a whole new game. We the agents of change, whole new scope with a whole new range. It didn't exist, so we built our own lane. We all knew the risk, it's a cold ass game. But first and foremost, we reppin' the fans because we nothing but fans living out our dreams. Crossing the pond with these 32 teams. There's only one road and there's only 5 kings.
Welcome to 32 Kings Road, hosted by the League Ambassadors. I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and it is my pleasure to be here today with my brothers. This is episode 76 of our podcast, and we have a special guest, Mr. Bjorn Blythe, and we'll talk about him in just a little bit. But first, as a reminder, you can follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Also, please visit our website, theleagueam.com. Also, please subscribe to and rate our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. Let's get this show on the road. I'll start with you, Redo.
Oh, shit.
What you sipping on, sir?
I'm sipping on some confusion.
Mm-hmm.
If the season is over, why are we still talking about football?
Bear down, baby.
Bears down.
Bears are down.
And that's what the fuck I'm sipping on.
Kev, what you sipping on, sir?
Gentlemen, I am sipping on some ale of the ginger variety, prepping my liver for what should be some real life shenanigans this weekend, since I'll be out there with you guys. But to keep it history related, as I've done so well this year, on this date, November 19th, 2018, just last year, the Chiefs and Rams combined for 105 points on Monday Night Football. Very historic game that we all remember. I think it was the most points ever scored on Monday night, third most points ever scored in an NFL game. And although it was just a year ago, it was way back when, y'all remember, Kenyon was a dedicated fan. Devin had a handrail on his steps. Before Devin had a handrail on his steps.
Correct.
Jared Goff was considered a quality starting quarterback in this league, and Jeffrey Epstein hadn't killed himself yet. So, yeah.
He still hasn't.
We'll keep that going. Yeah, exactly.
The times have changed, and last night's Monday night game, which that's what that Monday night game was replacing, reminded us of that. Junior Blue, what are you sipping on, sir?
I got a little Stella today.
All right.
And I'm also sipping on the fact that these 49er fans are riding real high. But I want you guys to talk to me after you face the Packers, Ravens, Saints, Rams, Seahawks, and suddenly hot Falcons.
It's coming for them.
That's so funny.
It is funny.
That's really, really
It's actually a segue.
Dad, what you sipping on,
And
sir?
he didn't even know it. First of all, I'm sipping on sobriety because I do have to prepare.
I'm sipping on sobriety.
But
That sounds like you got a coin in your pocket.
2 days. I'm sipping on fandom, much like brother Junior Blue, and how irrational it makes people.
I hope
So-
they're watching.
I just cannot say this enough. I can't wait for December 1st, 10 a.m. sharp. Early.
He said that like 20 times.
Early, sharp. All right. Well, I'm sipping on for the 6th week in a row. We're going to keep it going. Some Sierra Nevada. Come holler at us. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Mike's Sierra Nevada.
Thank you, Mike. Up in Chico, California. But what I'm really sipping on, and we're gonna dive into this just a little bit, is this is becoming an annual thing now. Colin Kaepernick. There's always a story. This story is I feel like it's summertime and I'm at Granny's house watching Days of Our Lives.
I feel like we talked about it last week.
So this past Saturday, as we did talk about last week, there was a workout that was scheduled by the NFL, and the plan was for Kaepernick to work out in front of whichever NFL teams wanted to participate or show up at the workout, supposed to work out at the Atlanta Falcons facility. And we talked last week about what we thought about that. And, maybe it was like, hey, perhaps this is part of some arrangement, some discussion. And because, the best quarterbacks today in the NFL all have the same playing style as Mr. Kaepernick, maybe there was a silent agreement that, hey, we'll let him back in because teams certainly could use him. We know that. We've known that. About 30 minutes before the scheduled workout, though, guys, Colin Kaepernick calls an audible. And he says, Omaha, right? Riverdale, actually. It was Riverdale. And he decides that he's going to have his own workout at a high school in Riverdale, Georgia, I guess about 45 minutes away from the Atlanta Falcons facility.
It was more time than 30 minutes, though.
We'll get into that.
You're right.
And so instead of 25 teams showing up, only 8 teams showed up. Hugh Jackson said that he didn't have enough time because the NFL had gotten Hugh Jackson to run the workout along with Joe Philbin. Hugh Jackson said that wasn't going to be enough time, so he didn't show up. But Kaepernick was there with his security. He had media. He made it open to the public. There were quite a bit of Kaepernick fans, supporters that came to the workout as well. He threw about 60 passes. And for all intents and purposes, he looked how we expect Colin Kaepernick to look. So the first thing that I'll throw out there is starting from the point where he called the audible, where he called the Riverdale audible, all the way through to the workout. What were and are your initial thoughts? And I'll start with you, Redo.
We have to.
Get it out the way.
My initial thoughts was same thing as a lot of people's. It was a sham, a fraud, a fake. And just even, as knowledge bears out, you come to see it was. But at first let me go back. The first time I heard it, I was like, oh, good for Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh shit, there is hope.
So wait a minute. When you say good for Cap, you're talking about when you heard that he had changed the location.
No.
Let's
first
start
time
there. Start when he changed it. When he calls the audible.
I didn't know why at first. It was just like wondering why he was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I found out it was an hour away, it was like, okay, then your antenna goes up. What's going on?
Yep.
Now I had heard something before about the waiver, but I didn't know how big of a deal that was.
Right.
Large.
And I didn't, his girl kept tweeting out, all we want is transparency. All we want is transparency. And then you find out, oh, wait, they wouldn't allow the reporters.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want his receivers, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So as the day goes on, you realize, oh, then they didn't want a continuous stream, which to me was the weirdest thing in the world.
Oh, like of the workout.
Yes,
so
they wanted to
you
control.
couldn't run the live stream.
No, they wanted to control the whole tape, be able to cut what they want to cut and send it to teams. So, at first it's like, what's going on? Then it's like, oh, the shit is in.
That
For me, I was out of pocket a lot on Saturday.
Right.
I was doing adulting, like your shirt says.
yes.
But when I heard that, I like most things that in this situation, I wanted to hold my judgment for when I knew what was going on. Initially, I had no clue why that would take place. But again, once things start coming out, and you start hearing about how things are set up, and the legalities of things, and what he was willing to concede until he gets instructions from his attorneys and his agent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the shitstorm that comes in on Monday when talking heads start talking about it, and some people start putting their whole damn foot in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Which we will talk about.
Which we will talk about. But as far as initially, to answer your question, I had no clue, and I just wanted to get all the details.
Let's go to our resident real estate agent, see how I plug that. Real estate agents, legalities, paperwork. It seems like everything really, really changed on Saturday regarding this waiver. So for context, typically if you're going to do a workout, there's a standard waiver that you would sign that basically just absolves the NFL if you get hurt during the workout. That's what the standard waiver is. Junior Blue, what was the difference between that standard waiver and then the waiver that they wanted Colin to sign?
The farce was all about the waiver. From what I got is they set up the whole entire workout just so he could sign this waiver, an extended waiver that basically said you cannot sue the NFL if you don't get a job. So to me, once I found that out, I basically said this whole thing, the whole entire workout, Cap trying to get a job, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about showing teams what he can do. It was about getting him to sign that piece of paper, and that's it.
Or Jay-Z putting out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Kev?
Yeah, just to continue what we've been saying, I mean, I sent the dog and then the pony emoji for a reason. 'Cause that's exactly what this was. It was a dog and pony show. And, my first thought was also, okay, because no one was ever talking about this Colin Kaepernick thing. Like, it had died down. We had gotten to a point, as much as we tried to talk about this, to a point where no one believed he would ever play again. And then all of a sudden they come out of left field with the invite for workout. My thought is, okay, either A, the league was convinced by someone that this was the right thing to do, or they were trying to avoid litigation. And as someone who looks over paperwork all day long, that is exactly what the league tried to do. And if you even look further, just outside of what they were asking Kaepernick to do, the NFL waiver for these workouts, if you read the fine print, this shit is fucking nasty. Like, you can't, even if the NFL is found to be negligent in your injury, you still can't sue them. So, like, if a trainer walked out there and beat your knees with a hammer, you can't sue them. And people are willingly signing their life over it. And then the fact that they made him sign a specific one to his situation, I'm okay with the way he went about it. I think he got great advice from his team on how to handle this. He still got good workout on tape, and we saw that he still has the ability to play, but it just shows that the NFL never intended to really give him a shot.
Kevin, you touched on something in what you said, and I had this actually as the last question, but I think it makes sense to bring it in here. As football fans, do we still care about this story at all?
Yes. The whole
thanks, Kevin.
Cool. No one said that. I forgot you got a second delay. Catch up.
You got it.
I mean, the whole world was captivated this weekend. That goes to show you how much it's still relevant.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the NFL, who doesn't rush to do anything, got a hastily worded statement out, which smelled like jailhouse PYA in the shower. Like, they had to cover their ass real quick. That's protect your ass.
Don't do it. Don't ask.
No.
Too late.
We're going to glance over that.
But to Omar's point, though. Oh, God.
Go ahead, Kev. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, but to Omar's point, I agree. I mean, we want to see him play. I think there were football guys, strictly football guys, X's and O's, who saw him either live or saw his tape and think, yo, this dude can still play, and the NFL needs his talent. But at the end of the day, I mean, the power structure is too big. As much as we can be critical, like, we're still watching, regardless if he plays. And more importantly, his teammates, his brotherhood, they're still playing football. So as much as we care, I don't think it matters at the end of the day, because people are going to still show up on Sundays and support this organization.
I think it's past football at this point for this whole thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's more so, let's see if he continue what he started by this whole thing in the first place. And then after that, if he does wind up getting signed, what's the circus? What's the debate's going to be surrounding that? I don't think it's the X's and O's thing anymore.
That much is clear. When you go to the length that they did, like literally staging a workout just to get him to sign a waiver so that could cease and desist on litigation, that tells you that it's beyond X's and O's.
But you know what? The circus is something that can be handled if they really want to. If the team, I mean, what's his name? The quarterback in Cleveland,
Mayfield.
Mayfield is a circus every week, and it's handled. It's accepted. Circuses happen in the NFL. It's how you handle it. So it's not, if they make it a bigger circus, it'll be a bigger circus. It doesn't have to be.
So then, to that end, and this is the Molotov cocktail.
Shit.
So to that end, if you say that, because I agree that the circus to some extent, yes. I don't know about Kaepernick's situation. But what do you say, without going to anybody specifically, but what do you say to those individuals that are like, if you want to play football, because essentially what we're talking about here is this. You have to concede that you're not going to sue again. And if you concede that you're not going to sue again, it's 98% likely that you're going to get a job. And if Colin Kaepernick, your thing is you want to get back into the NFL, why not just go through with the original plan?
Well, I don't think that that's the only thing that he has to concede. He's not going to, because I don't think if he signs the waiver, he was playing anyway. They just meant he couldn't sue him. The only way he plays again if he tells them 100% that he's not going to kneel. And we might be past that already anyway. This was just so he couldn't sue. It wasn't so if he signed, he gets to play. They didn't say, nah, you don't bye. They could say bye forever if he would have signed a waiver. So it was more about just getting them out of litigation, not about him playing. I don't think that the two are mutually exclusive. Because I don't think. Go ahead.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't see it happening because part of that waiver is you agree and you understand that the NFL does not guarantee you employment. So why would he then give up the only piece of leverage he has in a situation where he knows he's probably not going to get picked up? In my opinion, Kaepernick could get on national TV and say he's sorry. The NFL is not going to give him a job. They want to humiliate him, and they've been doing it up to this point.
And it wasn't just that. They scheduled it on Saturday when most workouts are on Tuesday because teams are traveling and the real people who need to see it would be there on a Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. Listen to the names that was hosting it. You got Hugh and Philbin. That's the who's who got fired last year.
You know,
who do they even work for?
The NFL.
Now they do.
Right. You want a job?
They got a 1099. NFL handed out 1099s. All right, let's get on to our football team. We're going to have a special extended segment. As I mentioned in the opener, we have a special guest, Mr. Bjorn Blythe. And if you watched or followed the League Ambassadors 32 Kings Road last season, you'd know that he joined us. That was episode 47 for our NFL season preview for 2018. He hails from Ireland in the UK. He is is it your company, BodyWork Clinics? Is that your? Sure. Right. Yes, he is the owner, founder of BodyWork Clinics. He is an accomplished American football player as well as rugby player. I think we mentioned on that episode, on his initial episode, he is actually the first native Irishman to receive a football scholarship here in the United States. He's also now working or transitioning into, he's been working in kinesiology, but specifically targeting mobility training, which we will talk a little bit about. It's awesome to have him back here with us. Let's get a golf clap here for Mr. Bjorn Blythe. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Bjorn.
Fantastic to be here.
Bjorn.
His rap name.
All right. Kev, it's on you.
Okay, again, welcome back, sir. Glad to have you and your expertise. So we'll just get right into it. We obviously weren't able to make the trip across the pond this year, so we're going to defer to your knowledge in terms of how things are going, what the state is of American football across the pond, specifically in Ireland. Like, is there a topic that's polarizing people? Do they care about the same like hot takes and hot topics that we're focused on now?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And I'm really glad to be back here. It seems like it is an annual thing now for me as well. Sorry to hear you couldn't make it over to the UK this year because the NFL series is really popping over there. They've got some great things going on around the games now with the youth, as well as all the pep rallies and all the other sides of it. So it's good. In Ireland specifically, though, we've got some great things going on. So the national team is probably the biggest thing going on at the moment. We've got teams playing in Holland and Belgium. We're playing against a lot of international teams. So now the squad itself has built to a point where it's getting better, and we've now beaten the likes of Holland and Belgium. So now, who knows? The world is our oyster. We're going to move on and do bigger and better things with the youth. There's some really good things going on with them. We've got squads traveling to England to play on a national level. Mm-hmm. So those things are really going well for the kids who've never necessarily played the game before. So that's going to be really exciting for the future as far as getting these kids exposure to what we call American football still, and turning them into a solid unit. So there's a lot of great youth programs at the moment being done. So I'm working with a club specifically, and they're working together to form a team. They have formed a team, I should say, and they're playing against other clubs in Ireland, 16 years old. So they're now going to the playoffs, and I think just before this, they've been playing in playoffs before this interview. And so they're going amazing. These kids are all coming from rugby and hurling backgrounds, Gaelic sports. I don't know if you know much about those, but
Yeah, we'll go back to what did you say? Hurdling?
Hurling. Yeah, so a lot of the kids are coming with these sticks and bats, and it's a ball. It is a ball sport. There is a ball involved, but they're not hitting
like
each
Peaky
other.
Blinders or something.
But there's Celts also, right?
yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, you know about hurling?
I've seen the sport before. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't go. I won't. Fuck you.
His last name is Henderson.
Oh, Henderson.
right.
Shout out to Poe.
I know what we're doing on Sunday.
So yes, they're all coming from different backgrounds, and they've all got the hand-eye coordination, having played different sports. So they're all coming to American football with one goal, and that's to learn the sports, learn the skills. And so we've got a great coaching staff.
Are they really taking to it? Do you feel like the skills are transferring?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can teach people a lot of things. You can teach people how to catch a ball. But a lot of these athletes, because of their backgrounds, they're coming with a lot of genetics, a lot of good genes, but also a lot of good foot speed as well, which you need for these sports. So to make the transition over to rugby, from rugby to football is massive, but something you can teach, as you've seen with Christian Wade, as you've seen with a couple of other rugby players that have now come into the NFL.
Right.
There is definitely scope for turning those athletes into football, just teaching them the skills that they need. And yeah, the standard's getting good. We're definitely, like I said, competing against the likes of international teams. We're getting a lot of interest in Europe. So people are starting to stand up and realize that the Irish team is actually up to something, and the future is going to be pretty bright.
Would you say, it sounds like, because you're talking a lot about countries like Belgium and Holland, would you say that like American football is more of like like an Olympic sport in the sense that it's countries competing against each other?
Yeah, it's
versus
interesting.
like actually having like the NFL is comprised of teams, and they do come from states or cities, but it's more so teams going against each other, whereas it sounds like over there it's more countries.
Well, it's a mixture of both. So
Okay.
We do have the Irish American Football League, of course, in Ireland, which is where I actually originally played. So I played in the Irish American Football League before I went to college, and the Irish American Football League consists of about 22 teams now.
Okay.
So it's really expanded from about 12.
Okay.
So it's really taken off. Over time, that'll probably go to 30, 40, and so on. But they've also got the national team, which comprises all those players. And the best of the best will play in the national team against other countries, similar to all the other leagues in Europe. So these players then play off in an international game. So the scope for American football is really taken off across Europe. So there's a lot of excitement about that at the moment, and that's probably where the hype is. It's around the international level, but of course also around the youth squads, and the youth squads seem to be going from strength to strength now. We've got a lot of young players who are trying to get involved in the sport, and it's really growing as a game for the younger generation now from the UK and Ireland, and sort of paving the way for them to perhaps in the future get college scholarships. And that's where I come in, is trying my best to give them my knowledge and give them my expertise to be able to help them transition from Ireland to America, which is a big step in skill level, step up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you're here. I don't know if anybody's seen that challenge that they have. I saw it on Twitter last night, where there's this thing where if only women can do this balance thing where they put their heads on the wall and lift up a chair and stand up at the same time. Men can't do it because of low center of gravity. I don't know if you've seen it, but me and my wife and my friend did it last night. That shit's impossible. But Going into
Wait, y'all did what?
That sound like a threesome.
stop it.
Time out.
Wayne,
Time out.
Mimo, and Wayne. Anyway, so,
And then he put the names out there. He done it.
Listen, that didn't help.
So, looking at some of the mobility training, that's why I kind of brought that up. So, seeing that now a lot of teams professional teams are going that route. Tell us more about mobility training and why they're now starting to do that and look into that more.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think the mobility training is something that's maybe always been there in some ways, but nowadays I think players are starting to realize the longevity of their careers. You're seeing players playing up until their late 30s, maybe if they're really lucky. Some QBs. And if you can make it, yeah, some maybe. But if you can make it that far, you've been doing the right things. I mean, I think it's a mixture of genetics. It's a mixture of the right training techniques. You have to have all those things. It's not just maybe one thing. But the mobility is certainly something I've focused a lot of my time and efforts on nowadays. For me, there's a couple of teams in the NFL, to my knowledge, that are using a specific mobility training that I am. And that's one of the ones that comes to mind is the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes.
So they've taken this into under their wing as far as mobility goes, and they're using this system. So my system that I'm using, I've been recently trained in FRC, functional range conditioning. So I'm trying to use that as much as I can in my physical therapy assessments when I work with athletes. So I've been using these assessments to then determine where players are lacking. So for instance, if I'm working with a quarterback, I'll look to improve his throwing arm. If I see there's a deficit there, my game is to try and get in there, have a look at his throwing technique, and find out exactly where he's lacking in his mobility, and find out how I can then extend that strength, force, flexibility, range of movement through mobility.
Let me jump in really quick and ask you this. So in American baseball, it's almost like a rite of passage now that pitchers are getting Tommy John surgery, and we think a lot of that is because of pitching and only playing baseball all year round. Now, will the type of training that you're doing, will that help with that, or there's no way you can get around that because that's just not a natural motion throwing a baseball?
It's a good question, because that's really getting into the biomechanics of the throw in baseball. That Tommy Frank, as you'd mentioned, that's Tommy John. He's that's coming in the ligaments, the ulnar collateral ligament in your elbow, and a lot of that comes to do with your mechanics and how you finish your throw. So if you aren't winding up in the right way, that's how that happens. And so with American footballers, I'm looking at the QB saying, right, this QB needs to work on his shoulder mobility, and in order to prevent those types of injuries, because they're happening in the wrong places. So I'm trying to help the mechanics of the throw to be able to give them a better chance of not becoming injured later on. So they're using the correct joint and not the wrong joint, which is where these injuries are happening. So my whole thing is trying to get the external rotation, say for instance in a quarterback. So say you take someone, a good thrower, but he could be a better thrower, and I'm trying to get specific. Yeah. There you go.
He said, "Yeah."
Good example. So if he's listening, this is the way to do it.
Oh, snap. Okay, let's stay with injured quarterbacks,
good segue.
and actually go to your team. Right, we got a long memory here at the League Ambassadors, and so folks, the listening, if you didn't catch Bjorn when he was with us last year, he is a fan of the Carolina Panthers, having a lot to do with where he went to school, I believe, because you went to college out here in North Carolina. And the owner, Mr. Dave Tepper, had a press conference this week, and he was like, listen, mediocrity is not going to be accepted. And that, as we know, is code and signal for
Two new quarterbacks.
Ron Rivera. First of all, Ron Rivera. My eye is on you. This is, again, a new owner. He's just stepped into the team. Last offseason, he changed the entire front office over, partially due to the toxic culture.
To get that racism.
He had to get that racism, that sexism out of there. It was just a little bit. Get that racism and sexism out the front office. And now he's turning his attention to the field. So he said mediocrity wouldn't be accepted. And he also said about Mr. Cam Newton that a decision would not be made until he's healthy in terms of what to do with him. He's in his last year, 21 million. There is the football fan in us that's like, usually when this situation happens, they cut their losses. They've got Christian McCaffrey that they're going to have to pay pretty shortly. I'll start with you, Bjorn. First of all, how do you feel about your Panthers this year? And then follow-up question is, what should they do with Cam Newton?
Yeah. The problem with the Panthers at the moment is it's just not clicking as an offense for me. Obviously, Cam's injury has been a major factor in that. And thinking about his injuries, I suppose the shoulder first and then the foot. These things take a long time to heal and settle. And for me, the Panthers really are lacking in that department. I mean, the offense specifically. I think with the Cam Newton, his injury, his specific injury is a Liz Frank type, and he sustained that in the first few weeks of the
in
preseason. Yeah, in the preseason. That's right. Yeah,
an unnecessary play.
Unnecessary. It's such a shame and such a silly injury because the ligament can take a long time to heal, and it can take as little as a few weeks and as long as 3 months. And perhaps longer for Cam Newton, which is a shame because his genetics, you would think, it would carry him over. But obviously he couldn't move. He was playing in the pocket. He couldn't get out of there. And this is where the Carolina Panthers has now brought in Kyle Allen. And what a great start he had, He had such
emphasis on had.
Emphasis on start. Past tense.
Yes. Yeah. Where you start is where you finish.
So do you want to keep Cam?
Yeah, I would.
You do.
I think, his athletic ability trumps all his problems, and I think that he can come back from these injuries. I think the problem for him, he wasn't getting his throwing arm going, and he wasn't able to throw those deep passes that he was used to.
Well, I think part of the problem was he even admitted because of his shoulder, he had to learn how to be a quarterback again. That's a lot to do when you already have a long career and you already have injury histories. So the Panthers don't know if he had come back from that yet, right?
Yeah.
And then you take the amount of money that will be due by the end of the season,
March.
March. Like that's you okay with that?
Yeah, I think that all the money, it sounds very tempting and everything, and it's great to have the Kyle Allen to maybe walk in the footsteps of Cam, but I'm not sure that I think that the offense has been built around Cam, and so a new offense now with Kyle Allen sounds like a great idea, and it sounds like the future, but I still think Cam Newton is a phenomenal athlete, and I think to have him on your team just gives you options, especially with the running game.
Junior Blue?
I think you have to keep Cam if he's healthy. And doesn't he carry like a $21 million cap hit next year?
Right.
So I would think they would keep him unless they got a sweetheart deal from, let's say, the Bears.
It's not happening.
Just saying,
I knew it was coming. It's not happening.
But,
we're not trading for an injured quarterback.
Kyle Allen, first 4 games, no interceptions. Last 4 games, 9 interceptions.
Tape.
Now, that sounds like a hot 2 weeks for Phillip Rivers.
The Jets.
You can already see that he's starting to fall off. You're starting to see people are scouting him better.
Tape.
And once that happens, it takes a lot to reverse it. Cam, if healthy, he's not mediocre. So you have to see if he's healthy. And plus, you don't want to take a $21 million cap hit.
Kev, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks available, man.
I mean, Kyle Allen is making a case for Colin Kaepernick to come back into the league. But what I will say is I think their front office is in a pretty good situation if you can imagine it. You're waiting for Cam to get healthy. You'll see if he will get healthy. You also have the rest of the season to gauge where Kyle Allen is. I mean, yeah, he did have a few good games, a few, subpar ones, especially last week, but that's the life of a young quarterback in this league. So you look and see how he recovers, and by the end of the year, you have 2 quarterbacks, 2 stages of their careers. You ultimately make the choice on which direction you want to go. I don't think that's a bad place to be in.
Staying with injured quarterbacks, continuing hot topics, we're going to dip into the college ranks. Definitely want to come to you first, Bjorn, about this one. I call him Double T. I don't even play with the last name. Tua T, starting quarterback, university. TT and him. TT from Hawaii, by way of Alabama, sustained a pretty significant injury on Saturday. He had a dislocated hip. 2 big linemen, they were playing Mississippi State, essentially fell on top of him, and his hip was dislocated. They were able to put it back in place on the field, and then he was carted off. He ended up having surgery, successful surgery yesterday. This is one of those difficult situations because he was definitely he is going to leave Alabama, enter the NFL draft. He was looked at as a Heisman hopeful, possible number 1 pick overall. And now he's in a hospital bed looking at a pretty long recovery. I'll start with the injury specifically. Whenever we hear about hip injuries, our minds always go to Bo Jackson, who had, I believe Junior Blue affectionately termed it, the AIDS, the full-blown AIDS. Full-blownsies of hip injuries. This is where the socket literally comes out of the hip. And then it's called, I have it written down here, a vascular necrosis, where basically blood flow stops to the hip, and then the hip bone just degenerates. And in Bo Jackson's case, he ended up needing a hip replacement. They said with Tua that because they were able to put the hip back into socket on the field so quickly, that the chances of him developing AVN for short, that they decrease, which is a good thing. What do you say are the long-term injury ramifications for Tua, and should this affect his stock going into the NFL as a quarterback?
Yeah, I feel really bad for the guy. Such a young age to have such an injury. I think with the prognosis for something like that, you could say that it's likely to happen again. So once you dislocate something, the likelihood of that happening is very, very likely, especially if it's not rehabbed right. I would imagine from what I hear, and I'm only going what I've read, is that the doctors have done a really good job and they'll do the best for the best. But in terms of long-term prognosis, I would be concerned that his hip will come out again. I would be concerned that that will reoccur at some point. Lots of rehab, lots of good strength and conditioning.
Super glue.
Yeah. I could use some of it myself.
Shit works for everything.
I like Gorilla Glue, actually.
God. I'm sorry I even brought it up.
Dad, is Nick Saban at fault?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, if anything, if he would have got hurt in the LSU game, then yes, because I don't think he should have played in that game. He played that game. He kind of gave up the cheeks a little bit, but he actually played a really good game after he saw ghosts. So I think no, because I think he would have been all right for this game. I mean, that's a freak injury, two big linemen falling on.
Well, I think for context, Junior Blue, I asked that because at the time it was 35-7, 2 minutes left in the first half. And Nick was actually thinking about, he had told Mac Jones, the backup, to get ready to a politic, and was like, let's just do this 2-minute drill, let's finish the half, and 2 plays later is when the injury happened.
Sounds like a grown man asked to stay in the game.
Junior Blue?
I don't think it's Nick Saban's fault. I mean, how many times does Tua actually get to go through a 2-minute drill? I mean, they're normally blowing people out. You know, they have those 3 wide receivers who go down the field real quick. They don't get to run that too often. They're in the playoff hunt. They're not in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand why he went to stay. He knew he wasn't playing the second half.
Kev, is Tua still a first rounder?
Well, I would say, just off of what we know, I would say no. But I do think it depends on teams and where he lands and let's say midway through the first round towards the end, where certain teams line up, because there are teams that could certainly draft a quarterback, but not necessarily need to put him out on the field right now. Like, I would pray to God he doesn't go to any of the teams that have a top 3 or 5 pick because they can't protect him. If he can get drafted by a team where he can sit behind a veteran quarterback that we've seen, I guess the other night, one who's got one of his feet out the door already. If he can sit on a team and at least wait for a year to see how that injury rehabs, then I think he still has a talent to go in the first round. But I wouldn't take the risk right now, especially if I'm a coach or GM that's under the gun to win right away.
Best possible landing spot, Redo.
Hold on, let me see if where the Bears draft in round 2, because we got to pick from the Raiders. So I'm trying to find.
Y'all could trade up and not pick
I mean,
him?
I think Kevin, right. I think Kevin was spot on. The best place for him to go, I'm not going to say the Raiders, but a place where the quarterback may not be in line with his coach all the way like the Raiders, where he can sit down and have a coach want to
less.
I think we need close up on less fast.
Hey, we get a playoff.
You connecting at 73%. You in line with the coach.
Listen, you're right.
I think that team's in California though.
Yes, it's definitely in California.
And I think we saw a lot of it happen last
That team
night.
might not be in California for too much longer.
Let's put Phillip Rivers out to pasture. Let's give him the old yellow treatment.
But they trying to have another child.
Well, that's his fault.
That's no lie. They trying to have another
nothing
kid.
else to do after next
Oh,
year.
you serious?
Yes.
Well,
He gonna have 5 more the day he retired for sure.
hey, that's when you want to say wrap it up, B. Wrap it up. I mean, that's a perfect situation where he's got to go. He's done. You have Tyrod there who can be the bridge. You don't have to put any added pressure on Tua, and he can sit there and learn under somebody that's pretty decent.
It just has to be a place where he can sit and they can protect him.
Dev, the only thing I would say though, man, is a quarterback worried about injuries. The very last place you want to play is for the San Diego, Los Angeles, whatever they want to be Chargers. Their training staff is trash.
Junior Blue, let's get back to Bjorn.
All right, Bjorn. Well, the NCAA has been in the news lately, and you got a little bit of a run-in with them. So how did that go?
Right, yeah. Are the NCAA listening here? Or are we, I don't worry about it.
Let's check. Fuck the NCAA.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been. I actually don't know if you've been following, but the NCAA as an institution is in big trouble. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I have. I've been following a few things, and I've certainly had my own experiences with them. So I was deprived of about a year of my playing career. When I was at college, I was deemed ineligible for being professional. So I was actually quite flattered, actually, to considered professional, especially having played in the Irish American Football League maybe 10, 15 years ago, when you realised, there were cows and sheep in the same fields we were playing in.
Wow.
But this is, it was a complete misunderstanding on their part, for which I appealed, and then was already, I was removed from the practice field, told I could no longer train with the team. And that was my own.
So somebody literally came and got you off the field.
Yeah, the eligibility compliance people came and found me. They found me, the one Irishman on the team. I wasn't hard to spot. I was doing a jig in the running back's corner.
Wow.
That's funny.
So that was my lockout. And I was held up, so physically as well as financially, because that was my first year. That was my freshman year. So I actually lost a year eligibility over that. So they redshirted me. So it's a year I would never get back. But staying focused and just it was a hard thing off the field, and just keeping ready to compete. So that was the NCAA's sort of my 2 cents on what the NCAA had in store for me. But I definitely think that there's a lot of miscommunication and misunderstanding on their part for what happens in Europe and how professional it actually is. I think their understanding is that it's a professional sport, which it is not. It's still an amateur sport, and we're working on getting professional one day. Maybe one day we'll have an NFL team in London. But yeah, I'll be on the show next year, maybe talking about that. Who knows? Not yet.
Might be a lockout. So going back across the pond, is there any interest in the UK around other professional American football, i.e. Arena football and the new XFL?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of hype about the XFL. I know a few players that I played college with in North Carolina, D2 college, and they are actually they played in the Arena League, and one of them actually got to the final with the Philadelphia Soul. So some pretty good standard of players that I play with in college, and they went on to do some great things. As far as in the UK is concerned, we're definitely sending some players on this international pathway program and over to the NFL. Now, whether or not they're going to the XFL yet, I don't know, but that's certainly it's certainly an option for some of the Europeans now, if they can't make it quite yet in the NFL because of rules and regulations as far as how many people are allowed in your team and so on. Then there's a possibility they could be going to other places like the Arena League. So that's something I'm sure is in the back of a lot of people's mind when they come and they want to play in a decent standard and get paid. Because at the moment, certainly you wouldn't be being paid for anything, despite what the NCAA may think.
To bring it back full circle.
So talking about a lockout, Richard Sherman last week literally said, batten down the hatches, save your money because a lockout is coming. He was also asked about the fact, because we're now starting to hear more rumblings that the NFL is all but assuring that there is going to be a 17-game regular season. Thoughts on the state of labor negotiations, Dad?
Well, as long as they got our boy D. Morris Smith, the head of the NFLPA, negotiating anything, I don't know, the amount of chicken in a family deal, they're going to fucking lose. You talk about adding the extra game, and they talk about trying to be better as far as safety. That's a crock of shit if they're going to add another game.
Right.
I think where they're going to get hung up, again, is the guaranteed contracts. I mean, they're starting to do it a little bit more, but they need to get that on wax. And until it is, it's coming.
Omar, they're talking about pushing the Super Bowl back to the end of February with this 17-game season. Too long?
I don't think it's too long, but I just think they're doing it wrong. I think instead of and this may be negotiation. I think the better way is to end up with more playoff games, increase the playoff field, add another game. The playoff pot gets expanded. NFL as a whole makes more money. It's not a player safety issue, and then the Super Bowl can still get pushed back. I mean, anytime the leagues can get year-round coverage is good for them. So it works for the NBA. It works for the most part, the NFL. The only one it doesn't work for is the MLB. So I don't have a problem with them pushing back the Super Bowl. There's probably more shows for us.
Wait, so you mean the pushing the MLB awards into November doesn't help them?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
But I'm very interested to see how they are going to die on that hill. If this is a negotiation tactic where they want concessions, or they are standing for this.
We already know how that's going to go.
Kev, you believe there's a lockout coming? You believe Sherman?
I do. Isn't Sherm? He's part of the NFLPA, right?
That's right.
Like the vice president or something like that. Yeah. Anytime a vice president of an organization says something like this, I'll take him serious. At least this more so than the other conspiracy he has that the referees are out to get him. But I definitely agree. You look at how owners are looking to fund new stadiums. They're constantly arguing over divvying up the pie. We talked about this either last year or a show 2 years ago. This is looming. And as a league where I would say I think the average player or the lowest player makes like $480,000 a year, Richard Sherman shouldn't have to tell you to save your money. Like, you should always be prepared for something like this, especially in a league that doesn't have guaranteed contracts compared to the other professional leagues. You guys should always be saving your money and always prepare for them to exile you like they did Colin.
Come on, Dad.
Bjorn, I'll ask you as a UK fan, and you talked about, when you first started that it's popping, literally, American football, the NFL is popping over there. What do you think, if any, effect that a lockout, that a work stoppage would have on that market?
Yeah, it would have a big effect. I mean,
you think?
You can see that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. The money is what makes it all tick, doesn't it? And I mean, the fan base in the UK, there's so much in the way of merchandise being sold at the moment. There's so much in the way of hype around TV as well. So to buy a TV package for the NFL will cost you money. You don't get that for free, as standard on cable or anything like that. So it'll have a big knock-on effect, a domino effect in the whole UK market, I would say.
Do you think it would? Do you think that it would decrease the excitement of the game for those fans, or is there? Because there's a point where, like with us,
You mean out of sight, out of mind?
Exactly. Because with us, if there's a lockout, yeah, we'll be pissed, but we'll be waiting for the games to start, and we'll be back on the horse. Would you say the same thing about UK fans?
Yeah, I think it'll die down, and the danger with that is, does it die a death, and then therefore the interest sparks and stops. So I would be hoping that wouldn't happen, because but I think that those who are fans will always remain fans, and but you just hope that the hype doesn't die down, because as you've quite rightly said, it's definitely popping out there. There's definitely a good
Definitely
buzz.
gaining momentum.
Definitely a good buzz. Yeah, it slaps.
Last Thursday night, we had a bit of an interesting ending to our Thursday night football game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns.
Did we?
Steelers were on their way to taking a thumping, 21-7. Maybe about 6 seconds left in the game, something like that. 8 seconds left. Myles Garrett does what Myles Garrett does, gets to the quarterback, albeit a little late. Put a little something extra on top of Mason Rudolph,
Which happens.
and then all of a sudden there was a melee.
NWA Mason.
Yeah. First question: do the punishments fit the crime, guys?
For almost all of them,
Yeah.
Except
Mason Rudolph didn't get
Mr. Privilege.
Yeah,
Mr. Privilege.
yeah.
They said I think he said he's gonna get a fine.
that's Daddy's paying for that. Whatever.
I don't think Myles Garrett fits his.
I agree with you, actually.
The only
In what way?
The only reason why it's indefinite is because it was a Thursday night game and the world was watching. And this may be a privilege issue, but Gronk, there was a player down. Gronk dropped a WWE style elbow on top of the player's head, gave him a concussion. Rudolph was not injured. Gronk gave him a concussion and got one game. So there's precedent.
Well, I can go even deeper than that. Antonio Smith in 2013 actually hit Richie Incognito in the head with a helmet. He got a 3-game suspension. It was a preseason game, so the final 2 preseason games he was suspended, and then he missed the opening regular season game. So I'll take your president and match it by 5. And then we've got Vontaze Burfict, who, it took him forever. It took him a lot of collisions on the field to get that. So I actually agree with you that I think that's the punishment.
It was a perception thing.
Yeah. I agree with you. Kev, you disagree?
I understand what you're saying in terms of precedent, but just in terms of what's right, I definitely think Myles Garrett deserved to be suspended for as long as they deem necessary. I agree with Dev. I think Mason Rudolph should have definitely been suspended for a few games. But as Les put in the chat, they're actually punishing the Steelers by forcing them to start this motherfucker. But yeah, it was strange, man. It was, of course, ugly to see. Nothing you want to see a man that size, that strength, swinging a weapon that could have killed somebody. But what I think it shows more just of the Cleveland Browns, which they continue to be this dumpster fire. And I said this before the season started. They don't know how to win. They were beating their division rival. And as everyone knows in the AFC North, we all hate each other. So you see this kind of stuff every now and then in terms of just the bad blood. But you guys are up. You guys are putting yourselves in the playoff hunt statistically. And still you do something like this at the end of a game that your team can't even celebrate because now one of their best players is out for the rest of the year. It's just dumb. But this is what the Browns do.
It was definitely stupid. It was not rest of the year stupid.
Junior Blue. At the beginning of the season, we talked about, and it was highly publicized, that pass interference would become something that could be challenged by coaches. It was voted in by 31 out of 32 owners in the offseason. And through week 11, 92% of all challenges have been denied.
Is it only 92%?
I think San Francisco won one.
It's come up again because in this Sunday, big game, Baltimore Ravens, Houston Texans, in the first quarter, score 0-0. DeAndre Hopkins, high-profile receiver, was obviously interfered with by Marlon Humphrey. They did a review, and they didn't overturn it. After the game, DeAndre Hopkins said, "We need somebody new in charge in New York reviewing these." The question I have for you is this, because it's obvious what's happening. The NFL officials, led by Al Riveron, they're pushing back on this rule. They don't want it. They want what the official sees on the field to be the law. So this is their way of sort of pushing back against it. But when you have instances or scenarios like the one in Saturday, or the one on Sunday, I should say, is this starting to affect the integrity of the game overall?
It definitely is. I mean, before this, on the field, you can say, because pass interference, although it shouldn't be judgment, it is a judgment call because there's contact on just about every pass play. But when you have the ability to go and review it and you see somebody tugging on his jersey, spinning him around in the end zone, and you say it doesn't reach the standard to overturn the call, what's the standard?
Right.
Because if you saw that play live as a ref, you had that angle to see the play live, you would have called it pass interference. But the standard on review is basically, unless they tackle the person, drag them to the ground, drag them through the back of the end zone before the ball gets there, it's not PI. So it's definitely effective.
Sometimes that's not even enough. I just think they're setting, like you said, that they're sending a message that they're not going to overturn this.
But it's dangerous, right? Because, I mean...
But they can't renege on it now. I mean, you let the genie out of the bottle. You kind of have to ride with it. But I think if they want to make this better and efficient, these challenges should only be available in the fourth quarter.
So here's my question then, Red O. Will they change once, I mean, every game is 16-week season. Every game matters in the NFL. But for the sake of argument, will they change this when the games really matter come playoff time?
If they don't, they're back in the same problem they had at the end of last season where they almost got sued. Or did they actually get sued?
There was a lawsuit.
Or it was fans who sued them. It wasn't the actual team. But if when the games actually matter and they do exactly what they did Sunday, then you double the problem. I mean, sometimes the NFL is okay with that. So I actually think they're going to have to use it in the playoffs.
I agree with all of you, and I do agree with DeAndre Hopkins. I think they should have someone else in charge of this. This is kind of like with police unions being the ones that overview complaints about other police officers. Like
facts.
It almost makes the NFL look like what we've criticized Major League Baseball for their umpires and their legislative body for just deliberately being unwilling to change, to improve their product. Like their ego and this arrogance is just getting in the way of the end product. But the same, verbiage I apply to the Kaepernick situation applies here. People care, but it doesn't matter. A Saints fan still watching football, despite what happened last year? Absolutely. So it doesn't matter if they blow a call in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs. We are here for the circus, and it gets views, and the train is just going to keep going.
Before we get out of here, we've got our S. Carter collection, Red O. Red O collection. Oh, yes, thank you. We're working better. Take it away, sir.
All right. So if you haven't seen this segment before, basically Jay-Z decided to partner with the NFL. So we decided to take on the challenge of taking incidents with the NFL and trying to match it with one of the 1,000 Jay-Z songs or lyrics that he has put out there. We're having fun with it. And again, apologies. But this one I got to say how I got to say it. So. Like nigga, dark nigga, faux nigga, real nigga. Rich nigga, po nigga, house nigga, field nigga.
Still nigga.
Still nigga. I'm gonna say it again. Still nigga. Stephen A. like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay. House nigga don't fuck with me. I'm a field nigga with shine cutlery. Go play the quarters where the butlers be. I'm gonna play the corners where the hustlers be. I told him, please don't die over the neighborhood that ESPN written. Take your drug money and buy the neighborhood. That's how you rent it. Mr. Stephen A. Smith. Listen, I understand you wanted to be first and you just signed that nice big old shiny freaking contract. But at the very least, Max Kellerman should not be the one standing up for us. At the very least. And then doing it better than you could. So
bars.
I understand it's nice and comfortable at the Candyland Mansion.
Oh,
but there were plenty of house niggas that also looked out for the field nigga. And I'm done.
His name was Steven. That's why it's funny.
His name was Steven.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yes.
Shit.
Thank you, Les.
His name was Steven. Well, before we get to the game picks, let's have a golf clap for both Red O and our guest.
Thanks for coming.
And again, Bjorn, I apologize.
Bjorn, give the people your social media, please.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram on Bev Hills Bodywork. You can also get me on Instagram, Beverly Hills Bodywork, and on Facebook, Bjorn Blythe Performance and Rehab.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's
Thank
so
you.
good to see you
on the wrong
again.
episode.
Hey, Omar, he Irish, man. He know what,
Right.
Shout out to Poe.
That's funny. All right, let's get to our game picks before we get out of here. We've got some good games in week 12. Bjorn, you're going to be part of this as well. We're going to start with the Thursday night special. We're getting tight at the top. Les did make a move. Don't worry about me. I'll see you at the end, I promise. We'll start Thursday night. We've got the Indianapolis Colts who came back strong. They got their quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, back. They came back strong against Jacksonville. So they are, I believe, at 6-4, going against the Houston Texans, who are also at 6-4, who just got thumped by the Baltimore Ravens. The game is in Houston, Kevin. Who do you have?
It is. Well, Houston hasn't beat Indy since September of 2018, and I think Indy keeps that streak going.
Colts on the road. Redo?
I think the Texans are proud, and that thumping hurt. And the Colts might get all that work while they are at the house. So I'm going with Houston.
Dad, no Marlon Mack.
Thursday, home team. You feel that sting, big boy? Just proud fucking with you. Texans on the bounce back.
Texans on the bounce back. Bjorn?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts on this one.
Oh,
Yeah, against the grain.
I like how you set that up, too. Say, yeah.
It's because they the same color.
Yeah.
They picked together. I get it. Junior Blue.
I got the Texans because the Raiders need it.
At least you got a reason.
I like the Texans too. Thursday night home games. All right, Dallas Cowboys. They listen, man. We mention him every 4 weeks because he's definitely securing the bag. We don't know what kind of bag he's securing, but he's definitely securing the bag in Dak Prescott. But listen, and I was surprised to see this, has the most passing yards in the NFL today. Dak Prescott is balling. Good game against the Detroit Lions last Sunday. They go up to New England, who is struggling in a real way. Tom Brady's press conference on Sunday lasted a grand total of 1 minute and 30 seconds. He's pissed off because he's concerned. Junior Blue, will he continue to be concerned after Sunday?
No. I actually have the Patriots beating them because I feel like Cooper will be shut down. If Cooper's shut down, Dak has problems.
Interesting. Bjorn.
I'm going to go with the Patriots.
Okay.
Patriots.
I feel like that's a standard answer.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, I sound like one of them congressmen today, tripping him up. Yeah. Dad?
Cowboys because I need it.
Cowboys because you need it.
Because we need it.
We need it.
And they can run the ball.
Redo.
Until Les said that about Cooper, I was ready to pick the Cowboys because, again, you can run against them, and Zeke needs that. But the offense works when Cooper works, and they have the back end to shut down Cooper.
Well, I'll counter that and say, listen, the last 2 weeks, Randall Cobb's had over 100 yards receiving, multiple touchdowns. Michael Gallup is a baller, and they do have Ezekiel Elliott, and they will run the ball, Devin, unlike Philadelphia. I like Dallas to win on the road. Kev?
I would love to pick Dallas, but Tom Brady pissed off at home. I hate to say it, but Patriots.
Is it cold out there?
Green Bay,
No.
San Francisco. Aaron Rodgers is going home.
Fuck all y'all.
Aaron Rodgers is going home.
His parents won't be there.
No.
Les.
Les.
My man.
Junior Blue, who you got in the game?
Green Bay.
Green Bay.
I'm picking against the 49ers the rest of the season.
Bjorn.
I'm going 49ers with them.
You going
Yeah,
49ers?
I'm sticking with the
You
49ers.
like that defense?
I like that defense, and I think that they're only getting started.
They're only getting
Yeah,
started.
I think they're gonna.
How far you think they going, Bjorn?
All the way. I think. Yeah.
You think
they're-
you're dead? You
they're
haven't
definitely
blinked
my
yet.
pick.
Yeah.
No, they're my pick for this season. I think they've had a little bit of a. Oh, I didn't realize you got a fan.
They're few and far between.
No, they not.
All right, Dad.
He's right. They just getting started. They're a real part of the schedule. 12-1, 10 a.m. sharp. I think the difference will be Jimmy making a mistake. If they do run the ball, Green Bay has a problem with that. But I got Aaron Rodgers pulling it out.
Well, their backs are pretty hurt right now. Redo.
Pulling out ain't Aaron Rodgers' strong suit. I'm gonna take Green Bay, and I hate to say it, and it's fuck Aaron Rodgers all day, but I think this part of the schedule is gonna be brutal for San Francisco. We gonna find out exactly who they are, and I don't think they're as good as people are hoping they
9-1.
are. Yeah.
Listen, the last 3 weeks, they've given up 25, 26, 27 points, they being San Francisco's defense. I think the bloom is coming off of the rose. And I do like Green Bay to win in San Francisco. I think they're going to go 0-3 on this trip, by the way. We keep alluding to it. They go Green Bay, they go Baltimore, and then they go Saints. Kevin.
What date is Baltimore?
12-1, 10
Sharp.
Hey,
Kevin.
it's going to be 10 a.m. for them, but 1 p.m. for us. The Niners 9-1 looks real 10-6ish to me. So I'm going to go with Green Bay, and it's because I have proof that Aaron Rodgers has a 49ers voodoo doll that he stabs every day since 2005. He's going to destroy them.
Don't I know it?
Yep. All right, this has been a fun and another episode of 32 Kings Road. As a reminder, you can follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. Check out our website, theleagueam.com. Shout out to Chief Diplomat Nick Blackman holding it down on our on-site blogspot, Diplomatic Immunity. Please, if you got something to say, make a contribution to there. That's the place where you can talk your shit. We will share it on our social media. Also, please subscribe to and rate our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. We will see you next week where Kevin will be in studio. Cheerio.
Out his pants. We busted in. We broke down the door. We came to win. TLA season 4. It's a whole new game. We the agents of change. Whole new scope with a whole new range. It didn't exist, so we built our own lane. We all knew the risk. It's a cold ass game. But first and foremost, we reppin' the fans because we nothing but fans living out our dreams. Crossing the pond with these 32 teams. There's only one road and there's only 5 kings.